Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today is a deep dive into productivity. I'm going to share with you the exact productivity hacks that have truly changed my business and my life. These are the non-negotiable things that I do on a daily, weekly basis that have helped me to remain focused, to be productive, to actually get shit done. Because I can tell you in the early years of my business, I was just running around like a chicken with his head cut off. I was reactionary, responding to emails, getting panicked, diving into the next thing. It was so much chaos. There was no order. And so, yes, I developed process and systems, and 100% you need to take power of process in order to build those systems out. So if you haven't taken it, go check out RebeccaHay.com/power of process. I think that's the link because you're going to want to look into that. However, these today are not about built-in systems to your design business. These are literally the productivity things that I do personally, and I encourage my team to do depending on the role that they play in my organization. But these are the things that I have learned from books, from podcasts, from trial and error, and I'm sharing them with you today. So here we go. All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business. Okay, I thought January would be a really great time to do this because we're setting our intentions for the year. Many of you are still sort of thinking about, what are my goals for 2024? What do I want to accomplish? How am I going to accomplish it, right? Because, they always say that, a goal starts as a dream. But it's once you take that dream, you put it on paper, and you start to think about how you're going to execute that it becomes a goal. If you're just dreaming of one day being a pro golfer, dreaming alone is not going to get you there. You need to put into your calendar when you're going to practice, when you're going to hire someone. You need to buy golfing gear. You need to join a golf club. All those things that need to happen in order for you to get to that place, plus years and years of practice and maybe a little bit of natural talent. I don't know. I'm not a pro golfer. But you know what I mean. And so I think in January, that's when I know I certainly really get clear on my goals for the year ahead. This year, more than ever, I'm streamlining. I am simplifying. I'm simplifying all the things that we do here at Rebecca Hay Designs because let's face it, we do a lot of things. But it's not possible to do all the things well. And so you need to get clear on what it is that you want to set forth into the year ahead. Once you've done that, that's when you need to think about and look at your week. Are you executing the tasks at hand in a productive manner? Are you being as productive as you could be? And I can tell you, as someone who's one of my core personal values is productivity, it's not something I'm proud of. It's just something that is a learned attribute, is that I feel really good when I have accomplished something, when I'm productive. And so if you're like me, you love lists. You love checking things off. You like to be organized and look at your beautifully organized drawer, and it feels there's a sense of satisfaction there. But sometimes a desire for productivity and achievement, if you're an achiever too, if you're a number 3 on the Enneagram like me, then you're an achiever. Sometimes that can deter us and actually make us become more reactionary and less proactive. And so what do I mean by reactionary versus proactive? What I mean is that when you're reactionary, you're responding to stimuli in your environment. So you're responding to your client's wishes. You're responding to an email that comes in from a vendor. You're responding to urgent issues that arise or urgent tasks that need to be done without really thinking big picture and giving yourself the space and the time to plan and do specific tasks really, really well. And so, my phone just dinged. Sorry about that, guys. I turned my phone on because I was expecting a call from the bank, an important call, and I forgot to turn it off. And that is actually one of my hacks that I'm going to share with you today, but it's not the first one. So let's start with the very first one. So what do I mean by this being proactive? What I mean is taking charge of your time and how you spend it and not letting your clients, and part of that is having a process and certain steps that you follow so your client isn't running the show, but making sure that you set aside certain times during the week to sit down and focus on a task at hand. And one of the biggest distractors from all of that, sure, is email, but it's our phones. We live in a day and age now where people literally have their email strapped to their wrist. Personally, I am not a fan of the Apple Watch or anything like that. I had one gifted to me once for my birthday. I cried. I was so upset when I got it. My husband gave it to me and I was like, you don't know me. This is not a gift that I want. I was so upset. Now we don't really gift each other. I wonder why. Because I don't want to be tethered to my work. I don't want to be tethered to the rest of the world and feeling like I need to respond because they're asking for something. I want to have more control of my time. And so our phones can be a massive distraction. There's a lot of people that will tell you, like, check your phone at the door when you get home, or, don't look at it during the day. And that sounds really nice, but I've never really been that successful at it. So the very first productivity hack that I implemented several years ago that many people say is crazy, but I actually did talk about this in a recent podcast with some of my designers room members. I think it was Ariella who said it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I totally do this. I need to record a podcast about all the things that I do that I realize I haven't really been talking about. And so these have been instrumental. These hacks that I'm going to share have been instrumental, like I kid you not, in allowing me the time during my week to get the important shit done. So the very first one is on my phone, I have email push notifications turned off. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, push notifications are when your email app. So you might be using like an Apple Mail app. I use the Gmail app. There's probably lots of other ones out there. Hotmail, I don't know. Does anyone ever use Hotmail? I used to have a Hotmail. Becca@hotmail.com. Don't email it. Doesn't exist anymore. But I think that's now all Outlook, isn't it? Anyhow, so I turn it off, meaning when I pick up my phone and I look at all the apps on the front page of my phone, I will see the Gmail app. I do not see the little round circle with numbers in it. You guys know what I mean, right? You pick up your phone and you look at it and you're like, oh my God, it's a notification. It's a push notification. So it pops up a little red bubble with the number 3, let's say. I have 3 new unread emails. Or God forbid, you've got 1,000. Or like my husband, hundreds of thousands of emails there. And that would cause me anxiety. And I would think that most people in this world who are trying to do a good job and trying to be delivering excellent customer service will look at the little red bubble and feel anxious, like, I wonder what it is. I think I need to look. I need to check it. Like, what if it's such and such contractor getting back to me? What if it's this client? Oh my God, I know that one client wasn't happy. Like, we tell ourselves all these stories, which then what it does is it removes us from the present moment of whatever we're doing. Maybe we're cooking dinner for our children. Maybe we're recording a podcast. Maybe we're trying to come up with a beautiful design fabric scheme and we're just really in the flow of it. When you look at your phone, which you're going to do inevitably unless you're one of those people that has super self-control and your hack is you put your phone in a drawer and you don't look at it. Well, good for you. I've heard some people removing apps for the day and adding them. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Turn off the push notifications on your email specifically, because email is where I receive all of my work communication. I do not receive texts from clients. They don't have my cell phone number. I don't receive texts from my team. We use Slack. I keep my Slack notifications on because if my team needs me, that might be a priority. But email is not a priority for me anymore. It doesn't mean I don't respond multiple times a day. I do. But I want to choose the time that I go into my email, whether it's on my desktop, it could be on my phone, and respond to people or send an email. So that is the very first hack. I turn off the push notifications on my mobile email app on my iPhone. And so if you actually are looking on YouTube right now at this video, I will show you what I mean. I have, hold on a second here. I'm just going to do this. You can see that I have there. Okay, so this is if you guys are looking, you'll see that I have a bunch of little apps on the main page of my phone. And there's only a couple of them that actually have that little red bubble thing. One of them is Slack because that's my team's intercommunication. One of them is Asana because that's where we create tasks and assign each other. And one is actually Facebook because we have our designers room Facebook group and I want to be in the loop and I want to be there to service those designers. But if you look at the bottom where I have iPhone messages, I just don't have any iPhone messages. And where you look at the email, there's literally nothing. If I go to open that email, however, I actually have 13 unread emails. But if I just look at the app, I don't know that. And it's not causing me anxiety. And I can set a 2-hour chunk of time to get some work done. And then at lunchtime, I can go in and I can respond to those emails. This idea that you need to respond to an email with urgency is a societal creation. And to be honest with you, if you can start to set the parameters if you respond to an email instantly all the time, people will expect you to respond instantly all the time. If you pause, respond in your own time, people will understand, okay, she's going to get back to me, but it may not be this hour. There's an expectation because things are strapped to our wrists or in our hands or in our back pocket that we can be accessed at any time, and it doesn't help you with your productivity. So that's tip number 1. The second hack is going to be an extreme for some of you. And I know that some people will disagree with this, so this could be quite controversial. But I was really loving how my productivity went up and my anxiety went down by not having the push notifications. Also, that means it doesn't pop up, right? So if my phone is on, like if it goes into dark mode or silent or whatever it's called, sleep, I don't get a thing popping up on my screen saying, here's a new email from like Chris Karski. That started early on. I stopped that early on because I'd be with a client. I don't need them to see that I'm getting an email about my daughter's birthday party, right? I hate that. There's no privacy there. But because I don't see the little red blob, I was like, I was feeling less anxious. So then I got to thinking, well, I mean, I'd be on a job site or I'd be with a client and I would just, every once in a while, I would just turn my phone to silent, right? There's like a little button. I mean, every phone is different, but iPhones have a little button on the side. It's a physical button that you have to toggle. Well, the new phones don't have this. I don't know how people handle that. But anyhow, I like physical buttons. There's a little bright orange thing, so you know it's on silent. And here's the thing. My phone is permanently on silent mode. And when I say permanently, I mean permanently. You can ask my husband. It drives him crazy. He hates it because he calls me and I don't answer because I don't hear my phone ringing. But don't worry. If it's an emergency, you can set it so there's certain contacts. If they call you more than one time, it gets through. So like that's never an issue. And if I am expecting a call, like I said earlier, I was expecting the call from the bank this morning. So I made sure I turned my ringer on because I didn't want to miss it. But that is like a super rare scenario. I literally keep my phone on silent. Here's why. I think it shows some serious respect for the person who you are with. If you are out for dinner with someone, okay, one of my pet peeves, guys, is being out for dinner or like a social event or someone's at your house visiting, and every once in a while, they get some kind of a notification on their wrist, you know what I'm talking about, and then they just quickly breeze down to look what it is. That to me is so freaking rude. I'm sorry. I know most of you probably do it. In my personal opinion, it's so rude. It's become so common that people don't even think about it. Imagine every single time, and it happens like multiple times an hour, where you'll be with someone and they're just quickly, and then they'll swipe it away and they don't always like respond to it. Sometimes they will. And it's one thing if you know that that person's in the middle of a work day and they're like, hey, like I'm just waiting on an email or I'm waiting on a call or what have you. But it's when you're having social time or you're in a meeting with someone and you're only there for 30 minutes or for an hour and they're like tapping their wrist. There's nothing that irks me more than that. I mean, I guess what would irk me more is someone picking up their phone and being on their phone while you're with them. Like that is just completely obnoxious. So it signals respect. If your phone is off and it is not dinging, it is not distracting the people you're with, and it is not distracting you because the phone is the biggest distraction. When your phone is dinging and beeping, like when I first started this podcast and I'd forgotten to put my phone back on silent, it totally caught me off guard because I'm so not used to my phone making any kind of dinging sound. It made a ding sound because I don't even know. I think I got a Slack message. And I'm like, whoa. And it pulls you out of the moment. You could also just turn your phone off in the times that you're trying to be productive. But I feel like my entire day, I'm trying to get things done. And my phone is a distraction enough. Don't worry. I pick up my phone just as frequently as many of you do. I want to check Instagram. I'm checking my emails. I'm doing it, but I'm doing it when I feel like it and when I have the time. And so when I'm busy, focused on doing something, like maybe I'm typing up the copy for my new website, or maybe I'm working on invoicing, or maybe like yesterday I had spent like 3 hours reviewing my numbers from the previous year, going through all my expenses. Why was this month higher than that month? What happened here? And I was in a zone and I accomplished so much. I keep my phone on permanent silent mode. I feel like many of you, please send me a DM if you do this too. I would love to know if there's anyone else in this world who does it. My husband, he hates it. It drives him crazy. But that is not reason enough for me to do it, because to undo it or to like not do it, because as a business owner, you have so many things flying at you. You're dealing with money. You're dealing with invoices. You're dealing with the bank. You can tell I'm in that mode right now. You're dealing with employees. You're dealing with clients. You're dealing with trades. You're dealing with fabrics. You're dealing with things on the computer. You're going to site. You're driving your car. You're like, blah, 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 blah. You guys know it's a million freaking things. So if my phone is off, I can just think straight and not get distracted, which is now going to lead me to number 3. This is the third productivity hack that has been a game changer. I started this in 2020, and this was something that I had maybe heard about and like loosely tried, but really had not been intentional with. And it's something that I've talked extensively inside Designer's Room in our December coaching call where we went through a year in review. It is something that I really went into detail. So if you're designers, remember, go back and watch the December coaching call replay. I really dive into it. But what I want to share here for you guys, just to get you thinking about it, and there's lots of resources for this, is time block your calendar. So basically in 2020, I worked with my friend and business coach, Lisa Canning. And Lisa really, really helped me. She was almost like the catalyst for me launching. She helped me launch my very first course. I don't know if I could have done it without her as my cheerleader, giving me the tips, because she had done a course herself. And so I was like, tell me all the things. But I took her course. I don't know if she still has it. It was called Conquer Your Calendar. So Lisa, if you're listening, I'll get your link. But it was essentially this idea that you could create an ideal week. And now that I'm more aware of this concept, there are a lot of great teachers out there that talk about this. But essentially the idea is that you want to time block your days so that you're grouping similar tasks. So instead of what I was doing before, which was, okay, so today I'm going to work on project like Beechwood. And Project Beechwood, okay, what's everything I need to do Project Beechwood? And, but you know what? Then the contractor's calling me for the other project. I got to answer that phone. And then, you know what? If I'm going to go to Cravat, I may as well also get fabric for Project Alter. I'm making up these names, by the way. I don't know. Alter, is that even a street? That's a weird. Alderwood. Let's make that one up. For Project Alderwood, right? I'm going to get fabric for that too. And then, oh my God, I ended up spending so much time getting fabric. I didn't finish the other thing. And I felt defeated at the end of the day because I was bouncing from task to task to task. I was trying to do invoicing in the morning, and then I was trying to do some design work, and then I was trying to do some communication with trades, and then I was trying to do some sourcing. And it was like, I just felt constantly like I was spinning my wheels. You know that feeling where you just feel like out of breath all the time? There was that hustle. I'm like, I'm hustling. That's what we do. I run my own business. I'm a hustler, like hustle mentality. It was like the early years of Gary Vee, right? But Lisa brought this idea to my mind that if I group like tasks or similar tasks, and I figure out each day of the week, what time is set aside for family time? Let's set aside some time to eat my lunch, because let's be honest, I never used to sit down to eat lunch. I'd be like eating on the go. Most of the times I'd be eating Tim Hortons in the car. If you guys watch my YouTube channel with oh my God, go back and watch the Rebecca Hay YouTube from like 2018, 2019. We made like a video a week behind the scenes, growing that craziness of growing my design business. I was like more often than not walking and talking, eating Tim Hortons or driving in the car, having like a breakfast sandwich. I don't know how my health hasn't gone sideways from that. Like I can't even, that was crazy. So things like time blocking in your lunch, but getting even more specific. So and I think it's Tim Ferriss that says, You should have a minimum of a 4-hour chunk to focus on any type of task. So, are you doing numbers and invoicing? If so, can you give yourself a chunk of time to do all of them and not just spend one day dealing with one project? Can you set aside? Maybe it's like, I don't know, the first Tuesday of every month, like that day, or like a 4-hour chunk of that day is set aside just for you to dive into making sure all the hours are uploaded into your accounting software, making sure you're creating those invoices, making sure you're following up on the unpaid invoices, and yada, yada, yada. Then maybe you set aside hours or a day to do sourcing where you're in your car. So if I'm going to be out and about in my car, I'm like, okay, where can I go? I'm going to drive everywhere in the city because I'm already in my car. While I'm in my car, I'm going to drive and do this thing, then I'm going to drive and do that thing. When I'm in the office, what am I focused on? Now, you guys probably have heard me talk about it, but I have dedicated days that I'm just recording podcasts. So I will sit down and it's an entire day and I say, nobody bother me. I'm not going to be available on Slack. Like I'll check in at lunchtime if there's any urgent emails, but I need to focus on showing up. Maybe I blow dry my hair. Maybe I put some makeup on for that day, right? So I'm set. Maybe I'm doing some videos. Maybe that's also done on a coaching call day because I'm showing up and I'm on Zoom and I'm in that mode. I'm here to host the party. Let's go mode. But then there's other days where it's like, I'm going to put on my Lulus. And today is a deep dive day in copywriting, in writing emails, or whatever it might be, or what it might look like to you. So time blocking your days and stacking like-minded tasks has been a game changer. This is something I really encourage my team to work on. And I always sort of say, okay, if you're going to be reconciling the monthly accounts, pick like how many days is it? Is it 2 mornings? Is a full day too long? Because like sometimes you can't stare at numbers for that long because your brain starts to turn to mush. So you need to figure out what works for you. And then to further that, and this is what I went into detail inside Designer's Room, but you guys can just buy the book if you're not in Designer's Room, is called, Dan Sullivan wrote this book that I listened to earlier or at the end of last year. It's called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And one of the many things that he teaches in that book, it's a really great book, is this idea of having buffer days, having focus days, and having free days. And he talks about the importance of each type. And so it takes time blocking to a whole new level where he recommends that you make the day like a buffer. I'm at my computer. I'm just going to do all the administrative tasks and meetings today. Focus days would be the days you need to focus in, like you're doing the design. Maybe you're working on AutoCAD. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's when you're pulling your mood boards together, your presentation slides. And then free days is when you don't think about work. So just to get you guys thinking, if you haven't tried this, the basic I would start with is a 2-hour chunk of time until you start to get comfortable with eliminating distractions. Having your phone on silent will help. Having those push notifications for your email off. So when you do look at your phone, you're not seeing like, oh, I got 14 new emails in the last hour. I got to dive in and see what it is. That is going to take you away from that time that you've dedicated in your time blocking to get shit done. Okay. And then lastly, this is the last non-negotiable for me that has really increased my productivity and allowed me to tackle new things like the podcast. It's allowed me to tackle courses, my membership, like things that I never could have imagined in the early years of running my design business I would ever have the time to do other things like this. You could never have convinced me. Like I couldn't imagine that I would ever have the time. I always felt strapped for time. And so this is what I do on a daily basis. Every morning, and I've learned this, I do this there's lots of people that talk about this. I use the Full Focus Planner. It's Michael Hyatt's planner. I'm old school. If you guys are here right now on YouTube, you'll see it's 1 book a quarter. So like you have to be into paper planners to have this thing, which I am. I like to just have my priorities right in front of me. But you could also do this digitally. You could do this in Asana. You could do this on a notepad on your desktop. You could do this on a notepad or a sticky note, whatever you want to do. You don't have to buy something to do this. But essentially what I do is I write down my daily big 3. Essentially, these are my 3 non-negotiables for the day. So I determine ahead, like, okay, this week, what are my big rocks for this week? What do I really want to move forward? What I need to get accomplished this week? back in the fall, one of the things that kept showing up on my list was like re-recording the course, Power of Process, because we completely updated the content of that course, the curriculum. And so I had to re-record every single module and every single lesson. And so a lot of those weeks where that was like record module 2, like that was the big thing that I needed to do that week. Sometimes it took more than one day. And so putting those 3 non-negotiables down on paper, and the idea is that those are the things you want to focus on first, not the things. And listen, it's not perfect. There are days where I then look back at my my planner at the end of the day and I'm like, oh shit, well, that's not happening today. I got way down in the rabbit hole doing emails and I have got to get home for the kids. So like I am not going to have time to print out my bank account statements for my bookkeeper. So that'll be tomorrow. But every day I set it with a new intention. I'm like, okay, what are those big 3? Let's make sure that we're picking the things that are going to move the needle. Like for example, on my big 3 today is record a solo podcast. This is the one podcast that I ran out of time to record when I did my batch of podcasts with guests, because the guests were so great and we went overtime, and that's fine. That's life. And so that was like the first thing I needed to do today. The other one was to call a client who has an overdue account, because I knew that if I didn't do it first thing, I keep putting it off because it's an uncomfortable conversation. And then there's other things I'm not going to share all the things that are on mine, but it could be anything for you. It could be just send that email, or it could be write the copy for my website. Like it could be a small thing or it could be a big thing. And then you need to make sure that you actually have time blocked out in that day to achieve that task. And that is one of the mistakes that I made for so long, is I'd have this big list. And even once I started using Asana, and if you guys use Asana for project management, it's great. It's amazing. It's like game changer. But what I would do is I would just be like, oh, I'll just move that to tomorrow's date. And I just kept moving things to the next date and to the next date. But I really didn't have any time scheduled. But then I'd look at my calendar for the next day and I'd be like, oh, team status. Okay, Withrow design meeting for 3 hours with my senior designer. Okay, then I need to have lunch. Oh, then a supplier's coming. Okay, then after that then after that, I'm going to Weaver's Art to talk about the event that we're hosting at IDS. And so it's like, oh, like I didn't give myself any room in that buffer day to tackle those 5 tasks that pulled over from yesterday. So it's taking a pause when you set those big 3 intentions for the day, those big 3 tasks, those non-negotiables for the day that you want to get done, and make sure, does this make sense? And if you're finding, this is me, like I think last year or the year before, maybe both years, let's be honest, that I was like, wow, I am really overscheduled. Like I don't have time to do administrative work. I don't even have time to do the Asana tasks that my team is tasking me with. They could be things like review this furniture layout. What do you think of these lighting selections? Can you review the social media posts that are going to go out this week and write a caption? Like those tasks take time and take bandwidth. And if I didn't give myself chunks of time during the week, I would get anxious, they would fall behind, or I'd try and be doing them at nighttime, which doesn't work for me. I don't work evenings and weekends. I have 2 kids. And then once I realized, I'm not doing this because I have kids, but also I'm not working evenings and weekends because for my own mental break, I need that free time. So you need to make sure that you have the time to do it. And if you're finding that you're overscheduled, then you need to look at what are the tasks that you're doing in the week that are moving the needle and what are not. And ultimately for me, it always comes down to which ones are generating sales. Because maybe, and this is why I've put off redoing my design website for years, because I haven't, I think 2019 was the last time we gave it a refresh. And I mean, we've updated some projects, but not even like our most recent projects aren't even on our website. That's how bad it's become. But people are still hiring us. And so for the last couple of years, it was on my list and it kept falling off because I realized that is not a money generating activity right now. That is not the thing. That is me being a perfectionist. Everyone says, oh, your website's so beautiful. The perfectionist in me who knows what's going on in the industry is like, that is so yesterday's website. But my clients don't know that. And so I held off. And I actually did an episode about rebranding here on the podcast, whether or not a rebrand is right for you, because I think sometimes we see everybody else doing all the pretty things and we think we should do it too. So if you feel overscheduled, what are you trying to accomplish? Is it what's moving the needle? And if it is, you need to make time for it. You need to make time for it in your week, in your days, and you need to get intentional with your calendar. Okay, so those are the hacks that really, some might be shocking. Some are pretty obvious, but they've really made a difference. And when I sat down to record this episode, I was like, okay, I knew for sure I wanted to talk about the email notifications because that came up when I was chatting with Ariella from Designer's Room. And then I got to think, I'm like, okay, what are the other things that I do that I don't even really talk about that have really helped me on a day-to-day be more productive and focus on less tasks and be more productive? And these were them. So I'm just going to sum them up again. That was turning off your push notifications on your email app on your phone, keeping my phone on silent permanently 24 hours a day, time blocking my days and weeks. So time blocking the weeks, like, hey, what days this week am I doing this type of task? What days this week am I doing that type of task? And using that and coordinating that with my team. So time blocking. And then last but not least is setting 3 non-negotiables for the day. Every day, and it doesn't mean I always accomplish it, but the goal is if I can't do anything else, it like all comes back to that book that I love called The One Thing. What is the one thing that if you couldn't do anything else, this would be the most important thing? And making sure that those top three things are there as your non-negotiables, and come hell or high water, those are getting done today. And when you start using this practice, it's going to be tricky because you're going to put things on there. They're like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do that. And then you start to learn that you're not being realistic with your expectations of your time in a day. Once you start time blocking and you put it into a calendar view and you can see, okay, this chunk is for this chunk, you realize how many hours there are in a week, and it's not as many hours as you think. Many of us overestimate how much we're going to get done in a week, but we underestimate how much we can do in a year. And so I think that is some food for thought. I hope that was helpful for you. I'd be super curious to know if anybody listening has implemented any tactics that I follow, or is there something else that you've implemented that has been a game changer in your productivity and your ability to show up for your business? Let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram, Rebecca Hay Designs. Let me know. And stay tuned. We've got some exciting things happening this year. Really excited about the way that the business is shifting to support you even more. If you guys love this podcast, it would mean so much to me. We've just entered season 5. What? I would love it if you could leave us an iTunes 5-star review. Let other people know what is it specifically that keeps you coming back to this podcast, that's brought you to binge it, or that you just love checking in every once in a while. What is it about this podcast that you love? Please leave us a review. It would mean so much to me, and I will see you soon.